Welcome back to the channel. The one group is about to flee, or fled. They're about to fleed, that's what I said. They're about to flee the battlefield, because I'm an idiot. So, let's get into it.
By this time in the center, Aurelian's infantry formation had stabilized and was slowly chipping away at Zabdas's line. Seeing that the
Can I just say Zabdas, by the way? It's a very cool name.
Battle is lost, the remaining Palmyrene troops lost heart. That Aurelian and his infantry were able to respond to a critically dangerous situation with such flexibility in the heat of battle, and thereby win both the infantry and cavalry engagements, while his cavalry retained their discipline when hard pressed, reflects both the veterancy of his men, honed through years of military crisis, and their confidence in his strong leadership. The few Palmyrene survivors staggered back to Emesa. After an impromptu council of war with her generals and advisors, Zenobia decided to retreat to the relative safety of Palmyra itself. With Aurelian closing in fast, the queen and her retinue abandoned the royal treasury in their haste. The Emesenes threw open their gates to the emperor, but he did not dwell there for long. Rather than returning to Apamea in the north and then taking a southeasterly route to the city of Palmyra, Aurelian led his army in direct pursuit via the shorter but more dangerous easterly route from Emesa across the treacherous dry steppe. His army was harassed by the raids of brigands, but they soon arrived at the trade metropolis. Palmyra did not possess a circuit wall at this time, and Zenobia's troops could do little more than to occupy strategic points in the hope of stopping the enemy. The queen hoped that the stores and granaries inside her city would enable her to outlast the enemy. However, the city was hopelessly surrounded. Moreover, Aurelian took great care to cut off the approach of a force of Persians, perhaps mercenaries, who had arrived to assist Palmyra. He also received assistance and supplies from the Arabic Tanuk Confederation, who were enemies of Zenobia. Zenobia needed outside help. She slipped out of the city during the night on a dromedary and traveled east, intending to meet with the Persian king Bahram I to secure his support. But it was not to be. Aurelian was alerted to her escape and sent cavalry in pursuit. They caught up with her as she was attempting to cross the Euphrates by boat and brought her to the emperor. The people of Palmyra were initially divided, with some wishing to continue the fight. But Aurelian's reconciliatory policy fostered a series of defections, which eventually persuaded the city's inhabitants that they could trust in Aurelian's mercy. He entered the city in triumph and distributed much of its wealth to his soldiers. The war had been won. Aurelian now faced the difficult task of restructuring the eastern frontier, which had fallen into disarray during the war with Palmyra. The Persians would have surely sought to capitalize on the crisis Rome was facing, but they faced their own internal problems following the death of Shapur I in 270 AD. Needless to say, the Persians were now anxious to avoid a full-scale war with the victorious Aurelian. Thus, the emperor was able to reach an understanding with Bahram I. He entrusted the reintegration of the Syrian provinces into the empire and the restructuring of the eastern frontier to Marcellinus, one of his most reliable marshals. With the affairs of Palmyra and the eastern border arranged to his satisfaction, Aurelian returned to Emesa, where he put Zenobia and some of her key supporters on trial. It was here that some of Zenobia's most prominent supporters faced the harshest punishment, including Cassius Longinus, an intellectual from Emesa. Zenobia herself was spared, but not out of any regard for the dignity of her position. Aurelian was aware that the formidable queen came close to defeating the imperial war machine, and undoubtedly still enjoyed much support in the east. Thus, she was paraded through the cities of Syria on the back of a camel, and, according to one source, was chained up on a high structure in Antioch for 3 days. Such humiliation was not prompted by cruelty, but by calculated political considerations. The myth of a powerful Zenobia had to be dispelled, and any sympathies for her cause had to be diminished in the urban centers if Aurelian's position as emperor was to be secure. Having finally felt he had brought stability to the east, Aurelian assumed the title Restorer of the World and embarked on a journey west with his hostages and the vast wealth plundered from Palmyra. His ultimate propaganda goal was to display Zenobia and Vaballathus in Rome during his triumphant return. While the preparations for this elaborate procession were being made, in 273 AD, Aurelian was detained in Thrace and Moesia, having to campaign against an invasion by the Carpi. But trouble was again brewing in the east. Some of Palmyra's leading men sought to revise their political fortunes and attempted to persuade Marcellinus to usurp as emperor. Playing for time with vague answers, Marcellinus remained loyal and informed the emperor of what was happening. Growing impatient, the conspirators then clothed a certain Antiochus in the imperial purple.
What the hell is wrong with that guy? I gotta believe that painting is accurate. Gotta sneeze. Okay. I'm okay. I sneezed. I didn't die. We all thought it was possible. I'm okay. Look at the mouth on that man. Look at the nose. That just looks like a lot of inbreeding. Okay, back to the video.
Incensed, Aurelian hastened back east with minimal preparations. Through a series of forced marches, he arrived at Antioch, surprising the inhabitants who were attending a horse race. From there, he rushed to Palmyra, catching the conspirators off guard and taking the city without a fight. This time, however, there would be no mercy.
I was just about to say, you can't leave those people there. You got to set an example.
Although he spared Antiochus as a man of insignificant birth, who was clearly propped up by the wealthy elites, the emperor's soldiers were given permission to strip the city bare and take as much plunder as they could carry. Palmyra would never again pose a threat to Rome.
You know how happy the soldiers were when he said, hey, you can have that plunder? They were probably like, really? We can? Oh my gosh, this is the greatest day of my life. Oh, I want to beat and kill a lot of people. I'm so happy.
However, the emperor had no time to waste. He hastened south to deal with an insurgency in Alexandria. This rebellion was led by adherents to Zenobia, wishing to avoid punishment, led by a man named Firmus. In the fierce fighting that followed, much of the prosperous Bruchian district, which included the Ptolemaic royal palace, was destroyed. Aurelian crushed the rebellion and had Firmus strangled to death.
Damn! I wonder if it was in front of everybody. Hey buddy, Firmus, come on out here. I want to play this game called See If My Buddy's Hands Can Fit Around Your Neck.
In 274, the victorious emperor turned his attention to the Gallic Empire. This final campaign of reunification consisted of both diplomacy and ferocious fighting on the battlefield. The Gallic Emperor Victorinus had been assassinated in 271, and his successor Tetricus was both fearful of Aurelian and anxious about sedition within his own forces. Being aware of the emperor's reputation for clemency, Tetricus wrote a letter to Aurelian offering to surrender. However, it appears that Aurelian would only accept his surrender if he offered up his army as a sacrifice. And so, in the autumn of 274, Tetricus conspired with Aurelian to meet in battle on the Catalonian plains, an open expanse of land that would have favored Aurelian's cavalry, including perhaps the former surviving cataphracts of Zenobia. Tetricus led forth his army, only to then abandon them and ride over to Aurelian's side of the battlefield, in a show of surrender.
Oh! Okay, so sacrifice your army. I thought... Sacrifice your army. Surrender your army was what I was thinking. So he would surrender the soldiers, so the soldiers now would fight for them. That was what... Sacrifice, I heard surrender. Yeah, that's a dick move. Not only that, but you're going to lose your country. Why would they trust you at all? Wow.
However, the Romano-Gallic army was an experienced force. They had successfully crushed Germans, usurpers, and rebel cities, and had twice defeated the excellent military emperor Gallienus. They were still a cohesive and strong enough force to fight Aurelian without their emperor. Nevertheless, the Gallic army was slaughtered in a massive and hard-fought battle that reunited the empire, but also, due to the Gallic losses, temporarily compromised the security of the Rhine frontier. Finally, at the end of 274, Aurelian returned to Rome to celebrate his grand triumph over barbarians and usurpers. Tetricus and his son Tetricus II were made to walk before Aurelian's triumphal chariot. But also marching before Aurelian was the once mighty Queen Zenobia, a jewel in Aurelian's crown. She was shackled in gold chains and adorned with large gems so heavy that she could barely walk. Aurelian's soldiers handed out free bread to the citizens, and the emperor was hailed a hero by his subjects. Aurelian pardoned Tetricus, rewarding him for turning over the Gallic Empire by making him the governor of Lucania in southern Italy. Likewise, Palmyra's moment in the sun had come to an end, but Zenobia now embarked on a new life. Aurelian gave her an estate in Tivoli, and she married a Roman senator. Thereafter, she lived in Italy with her children, now a member of Rome's senatorial elite. The ever-busy Aurelian was still not yet able to rest. In 275, he returned to Gaul to restore the weakened Rhine frontier, putting down Gallic unrest and defeating Germanic incursions into both Gaul and Raetia. He then made his way to the Balkans to deal with a new series of Gothic raids into Thrace and Asia Minor. However, Aurelian never finished this campaign. As an administrator, he was known to be strict, handing out severe punishments to corrupt officials and soldiers. His secretary Eros feared for his life on account of his own corruption. To save his own skin, he forged a document listing the names of men supposedly marked by Aurelian for execution. High-ranking officers of the army were on that list. Fearing punishment, they murdered Aurelian in September 275 in Thrace. Aurelian's death prevented a full restoration of political stability that could have ended the cycle of assassinations and civil wars. His short reign had reunified a disintegrating empire and secured its frontiers, effectively giving Rome a new lease of life that lasted another 200 years. Credit goes to our awesome patrons who...
Well, that was good. I didn't really know much about him. Whatever happened to the body? Was he brought... His death plunged the empire back in uncertainty. So, what happened to body? What happened to the body? Was he brought back to be able to be buried, you know, properly? Is he in Rome? Was he thrown into the ocean? The ocean. By the way, little question. Byzantium? Is that Istanbul? Istanbul? Now? Wasn't it something else? Istanbul. Oh, I can't think of the name of it. It's not important. I'm just asking. Okay. So, you can donate to the channel through the thanks button. You don't have to. All donations are appreciated. You can subscribe to the channel. It took me what was it? 18, almost 19 months to get 1,000 subscribers. And that was in July. So 4 months later, since I got my 1,000, and I've racked up 700 plus. So it's been pretty nice. Give a thumbs up. It's free, and it helps to the YouTube algorithm thing. Click that bell, by the way. You can also get updates on things. I am thinking, and I'm going to do a short just to kind of pose it, but I'm thinking about my 1,000th video, which is going to be 40 some videos from now. My 1,000th video, I'm thinking, or it'll be a little later, but it'll maybe a question and answer, and I will have a comment section for that video, and it would just be filled with questions. And then on the whatever video, the 1,000th video or whatever, I will go through and answer those questions. I'm still thinking about doing another live one. I did get the OSB, got it figured out, but I haven't messed with it at all, so I have to refigure it out, which it wasn't too difficult to learn. But besides from all that, have a good day, have a good night.